Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Odin's Movie Vlog. I am the critic who is a cynic. Hope you're doing well. And today we'll be looking at the box office numbers for Sonic the Hedgehog, looking ahead a little bit, doing some box office tracking, and also doing some estimates as to what the film likely will make, or at least the range at this point in time, based on the early box office tracking of what it seems likely to make, and talking about whether or not it's going to be profitable or whether it's going to be a financial loss. Once again, these are all very early numbers, so obviously these are all subject to change. The film could absolutely make less than what I'm predicting that it's going to make. It could also make a lot more than what I'm predicting it's going to make. It really just depends really on the global marketplace overall, because it seems to me that the domestic marketplace is pretty much going to be set where it is. What is interesting is that you are seeing some increases in the projected number for this film. As you can see, there's been a 3% increase from the previous week in the overall projection. Sonic the Hedgehog comes out February 14th. And right now, the movie is set to make around $34 million in its opening weekend. There are some sources saying that it's expected to make upwards of $40 to $45 million domestically in its opening weekend, which, to be honest, for a film that when I first saw the trailer for, that original trailer that got some of the I think some of the highest numbers of downvotes in YouTube history, I think really just went to show you a lot of people didn't think this film was ever going to be profitable, that this film was automatically going to be a bust upon release. But what happened? The director said, hey, I'm listening to this feedback. I hear the fans. We're going to go ahead and postpone this film by a few months. We're going to go ahead and add some more money into the project, fix the CGI, fix the issue, and we're going to give people what they want. We're going to give the fans what they want. It's a pretty amazing concept, right? The fact that we live in a modern day and age where a lot of studios and a lot of directors won't even just for a second listen to the fans, especially when you go to things like Disney Star Wars, for example. It's just truly amazing to me that you have a film like this that is all likelihood, because they decided to fix the issue, because they decided to listen to the fans, is more likely than not going to actually make money at this point in time. A film that was almost a guaranteed flop is now set to, based on the estimates that I'm going to be putting forward to you in a little bit, going to be profitable. So let's go ahead and dive into these numbers for a little bit. So Sonic the Hedgehog, remember, is a Sega product, which means that this is definitely a worldwide brand. This is not something that is in all likelihood going to perform best in the United States, because this is something that a lot of people from all over the world, I'm looking especially in the markets like Japan. China is going to be a big question mark, because obviously there's a lot of things going on with the coronavirus right now. There's been reports that they've had to shut down like thousands and thousands of theaters. So because this is still an issue going on, and because this film is set to release there relatively quickly, it is going to be interesting to see whether or not that hurts or impacts the global marketplace for Sonic the Hedgehog. But regardless of that, I think that the numbers of people going to see it across the world, in Europe, and also again in that Japanese marketplace, will probably be enough to be able to at least keep it to the level of it being profitable. So as you can see, again, the range is $31, $36 million, $34 million. But as I said, there are some reports that I'm reading saying it could be upwards of $40 to $45 million. Again, this right here from therap.com, again, says that the predicting right now, there's tracking going on. This was early Thursday morning, so January 23rd, that it was around $40 to $45 million. And so it looks like there's some discrepancies here between the long-range tracking over on Box Office Pro, which usually I go to as far as getting estimates about what the film is expected to make. Either way, the film is expected to have a pretty decent opening weekend. Again, nothing groundbreaking, but the fact that Sonic the Hedgehog is set to make over $15-20 million, which I think is what the tracking would have been when it was first coming out, is pretty remarkable nonetheless. I think that they've increased the amount of people, myself included. I had no plans to see this movie, but because the director said, hey, the fans have spoken and I'm going to listen to the fans, I'm going to see it just for that alone. You know, obviously, you talk about how I wouldn't call myself a diehard Sega fan. I wouldn't call myself, a diehard fan of the Sonic the Hedgehog franchise, but I played a lot of Sonic games when I was younger, especially on the Sega Genesis system. So I do have some connections with these characters, and I still have a lot of concerns about Jim Carrey's portrayal of Dr. Robotnik. I think that could be really bad. It could be really campy, and it won't be fun, but I'm willing to give it a shot because of what the director was actually able to do here. So the overall projected total that the film is expected to make in the domestic marketplace is between $100 and $140 million, with an average of that being around $118.5 million, which again is really not all that bad when you think about it. Now, what I did was I decided to take that number, assume that it might be a little bit higher than that because these numbers are tracking a little bit behind of what some other industries are saying, and plug in some possibilities here. So I decided to put in a range. between $300 million worldwide and $430 million worldwide. So where did I get that $300 million? So again, I assumed that it might be a little bit higher than the $118.5 million, and then I multiplied it by 2, because let's assume that there's a even 50% split, which I doubt is going to happen with this movie. I really do think that the foreign marketplace, the international marketplace, is going to have closer to a 60-40 split or something to that effect. And even at worst, I would see it be 51-49 split, with most of it going to the foreign international marketplace. And with those numbers cracked in, I was like, okay, $300 million seems to me like a very reasonable place for the minimum worldwide box office total to end up being. The reason why I got to the maximum of $430 million is because of what other films have done previously in this marketplace. So as you can see here, Detective Pikachu is one that a lot of people are showing connections with. The closest comp to Sonic will be last year's, as it says, Detective Pikachu, which opened at $54.3 million and grossed $431 million worldwide with a $150 million budget, which is actually a lot more than what Sonic the Hedgehog's budget was. And so therefore, a $400 million global cum will likely be the baseline target for Saga, which makes a lot of sense to me. Again, you're dealing with and the reason why that film is being brought up there is because Detective Pikachu featured a mostly CGI character in a CGI world with humans in it. And in this case, you have something very similar. We have a CGI character with humans interacting with this character, and also his own, basically alien world that they're trying to play off based on the trailers. And so when you look to the actual budget of the film, it's actually not as high as you would think that it would be. The original budget was actually around $90 million. And some people have reported saying, oh my gosh, it cost them an extra $35 million. But if we are to believe these reports from people like IndieWire.com, it actually costs around $5 million extra, or in that range, to redo the audio, rather to redo the visual effects for the film, which to me is pretty impressive, if that is true. Again, I think that it is important for us to realize that these are all reports. These are all things coming out from sources close to Paramount. So the number could absolutely be higher, which is why I said take these numbers with a grain of salt. But I just wanted to go ahead and show you why I got that $95 million budget from, especially since a lot of people might be trying to report that the number is actually higher than that. So let's assume the $95 million budget is indeed the total cost of the film. Well, with marketing, with the standard, again, multiply it by 1.5, which is, again, you take half of the budget, add that on top of the budget, and that's what you usually spend on marketing in addition to the budget. You have $142.5 million that it needs to make up. So assuming this minimum that I came up with, of $300 million, if it makes $300 million in the worldwide box office, which to me is not totally out of the realm of possibility, especially with a lot of the positive buzz, because the director went back and changed these things and listened to the fans, that means that the worst case scenario for this film, based on this number, is $37.5 million, or rather $37.5 million in net gain, net profit. Which, hey, is that crazy amounts of money? Is that hundreds of millions of dollars in net gain, net profit? No, but it's profitable. It's profitable. And let's say, okay, what if it does as well or possibly even better than Detective Pikachu, which, again, is a bit of a stretch now at this point in time, and we'll follow those numbers as soon as they come out. But let's assume that happens. If that happens, then the film is set to make $115.5 million in net gain, net profit. So either way, it seems very likely that Sonic is actually going to be a profitable film, which, as I said previously, is truly amazing, because I think that myself included and many other people that track box office numbers would have told you that Sonic was dead in the water. When those first trailers came out, and the first trailer really came out, and the design was terrible, and obviously Jim Carrey was doing his thing, and a lot of us were like, what in the hell are we watching? What is this? This doesn't even look like Sonic. Many of us were already predicting this is going to be one of the biggest box office bombs of the year, which, again, theoretically it could be. So let's go ahead and give a possible other one. So let's assume that it does this, again, $118.5 million domestically. And let's assume that that is the absolute total number that it's actually going to end up making. And so, and also that there's a direct 50% split, which, again, I doubt it's going to happen, because I really do think it's going to do better in the foreign marketplace. But let's assume that is the case. So let's go ahead and add this in Excel. You can actually see how I work here. So we take this number and we multiply that by 2, because that would mean a direct 50-50 split, right? I got to make sure I actually click the right button. Otherwise, it's just not going to work. So we're going to multiply that by 2, which means that even if worst case scenario, so literally everything fails, China shutting down all their theaters means complete epic losses all around the entire world. Even then, if it doubles, again, $118.5 million, which is the projected average right now for the domestic market, if it can at least make that much in the international marketplace, you're looking at a $30,000 loss, which, once again, is pretty freaking impressive for a film that was delayed, pushed back, and had so much negative press around it that it's now come to the point where it's done almost a complete turnaround. What all this is to say is that studios, if you listen to the fans, if you say, hey, you know what, we're going to wait and do this right, we're going to hold off and we're going to give you the best thing that we could possibly give you, we're going to actually give you what you want, it can work. And based on these early numbers, based on this early tracking, it looks like you have a film that was at one time going to be a guaranteed flop is now set to be a pretty good success. Again, unless things drop out, the bottom drops out, again, that could happen. And I think that really the bare minimum you're looking at is $237 million. Again, the current projected domestic times 2, again, 50% or so. That's a 50-50 split in the foreign and domestic marketplace. Only a $300,000 loss? That's something that one can easily write off, and also something that you can easily make up in Blu-ray DVD sales. And as I said, this is a film that I think is going to do better because people are actually fans of it, because of the fact that the director listened. But also, I don't know about you, but I'm already excited for the DVD Blu-ray release because I want to see the commentary where the director is in all likelihood going to talk about that whole experience. Is going to have the record of this is what happened and this is what we decided to do, and just how they were able to turn it around in such a way. It's truly amazing. But anyway, let me know your thoughts about this. Do you think that Sonic is going to be successful? Do you think that it's going to fall into that guaranteed success? So as I said before, I think that there is a very good chance that you're going to find yourself making this film or having this film make around at least $300 million and worldwide. And I think that that means that you have a situation where it's going to make profit. It's going to make money. It's insane. I cannot believe that this is actually happening. So, I assume that was the case based on the numbers I was looking at, but I wanted to actually plug in the numbers. And for anyone that's wondering how I get to these numbers in the way that I do, you can actually see the equations up here. And so the way that you get to this number, as far as, what it actually is set to make. So, again, these are the totals that you get from the box office number sites, like thenumbers.com or Box Office Mojo. So $300 million, that's what's reported, right? That's what the box office says. $430 million, right? That's what the box office says. But that's not what the studio actually gets. The studio only gets about 60% or so, depending on the studio, depending on the movie. Again, sometimes that fluctuates, but around 60% they get of this number. And then you have to subtract, of course, how much they spent on the movie as well, because that is obviously them putting out money. That's them spending money, not that getting that money back directly. And so when you take that into account, that's how you get the net gain and net profit. For anyone that's wondering, that's how I get those numbers. And also I get the numbers over on my other Excel sheet where I break down the entire box office. And if you want to follow the box office tracking for films that are currently out, please go ahead and check out my website, ombreviews.home.blog. You can find a link to it in the description of the video. I know it is definitely a mouthful, but it's a really cool place where you can follow the box office numbers. I got a whole section dedicated to Star Wars box office tracking as well, and a lot of other fun stuff like that. But anyway, let me know your thoughts about this and all the things to talk about in the comment section below. If you like this video, smash the like button, give me a subscribe, it helps me out a lot. You're all amazing, beautiful people. Have a wonderful day, and as always, God bless. And now I want to give a shout out to my January Patreon members: animation commentator Brian P, Dion, Divex, Elizabeth M, Enrique Evangelista, fan addicts of film, Father Christopher Miller, hail Father, Frank the Tank and the Shawhan Wiener Dog Clan, Harold Francis, the Hunky Chunky Funky Monkey, Inflamed Wood, Intertrap Productions, Jason Clark, Jeffrey Toon, JJ Jonathan Jerembeck, Lady T, Mad Mitch Dunaway, Mr. Peabody and his evil twin, Orange Hat Reviews, Outpost Dyer, Perpetual Punster, Riff Magos, Rosetta Allen, Sir Lancelotto, Theodore Bendon, The DJD Show, Those Two Ball Guys, and Tina B, and Sharon Ferguson. Sharon! Thank you so much for being Patreon members. And of course, to my Subscribe Star peeps, Larry, Mr. Roy, Glinzer, G2 Cool 99, Darkstar 57, J. Alex McCarthy Jr., US 888209 Fast, Dean Heiss, Harold Francis, J-Rod the Beer Guru, Nebalan G. Adams, and ZK Man. Thank you so much for supporting me this month. You guys freaking rock. And a special new shout out to Jeff Lebowski and Steve Glasker. And a shout out to Robert Revo and Kenneth Cameo. God bless.